My name is H.A. Goodman. I'm an author, columnist, and journalist. To support this YouTube channel, go to my Patreon link below, subscribe to this channel, buy my 2 books, But Her Top Secret Emails, But Her Deleted Emails. The links are below. If you want to know everything there is to know about the Clinton email scandal, read both books. Go to Amazon, just type in But Her, and it'll go to Deleted Emails. I'll speak about them a little bit more later in the segment. This is a fantastic article by Caitlin Johnstone. Democrats keep rehabilitating W's image to justify their neoconservatism. This is something that I saw in 2014 when I wrote an article about Rand Paul saying that I would vote for Rand Paul. This was long before Bernie decided to run. The Democrats or the liberals who read my writing or who knew who I was, their heads exploded in shock and horror and indignation. Liberals, or quote-unquote, a lot of progressives, they don't care about foreign policy. They don't care about war. They don't care about... They care about ensuring that people don't have access to guns and firearms, but they don't care about Clinton's weapons deals, where hundreds of billions of dollars are shipped to countries in the Middle East that don't even allow women to vote or drive. The quote-unquote liberals who first went after Bernie Sanders, then Trump, because they hate what Bernie stood for, and they also hate Trump. So it's not about value system with the media. But quote-unquote liberals, they have completely abandoned war and foreign policy, which is my biggest consideration. That's the reason why I love Bernie so much. You can say what you like about Bernie, and he's not a communist and he's not a socialist. Democrat. If he calls himself a democratic socialist, believe me, he wants to break up banks so we don't nationalize them. But the biggest thing I loved about Bernie and Jill Stein, something that Trump and Clinton don't have, is that they want to bring home soldiers. They want to end perpetual counterinsurgency wars. Trump is actually less hawkish than Clinton. But pertaining to Hillary Clinton, one of the big reasons I wrote that Rand Paul article in 2014 that people didn't understand, the biggest reason is because he was the anti-war candidate compared to Clinton. If you give me an anti-war candidate compared to Clinton or compared to a Democrat, I'm going to pick the anti-war candidate, even though that person might not fit all my entire value system. So then here you have a public relations executive for the Democratic Party, Eric Boehlert. Also, we should drop Katrina references. Deep down, W. Bush did care about the victims. Trump couldn't care less about Puerto Rico. That's not true at all. Katrina was a logistical failure. Puerto Rico was a moral failure. So yeah, I think that Trump should do even more for Puerto Rico. I think that everyone should go ahead, and it's very important to donate to understand what's going on in Puerto Rico because of the storm. In the end, incompetent W. Bush devoted resources to build after Katrina. Trump will never do the same for Puerto Rico. How do you know this? Number one. Number two, we hear a great deal about what's taking place in terms of what Trump is doing, whether he's doing enough or not enough. Sure, I think he should do even more. But with Katrina, you had people for days without any help from Bush. Now you have Washington Post, September 29th, missing these guys, you betcha. This is Obama, Bush, and Clinton. So Bill Clinton, Barack Obama, and George W. Bush is the reason. You look at Bill Kristol, Robert Kagan. These are people who pushed for neocon foreign policy even during Bill Clinton's administration. The neoconservative philosophers or writers or thinkers like Max Boot and Paul Wolfowitz and all of them said, if you remove Saddam, there will be peace and prosperity and democracy in the Middle East. The opposite took place. What happens if you're a football coach and you go 0-16? In their case, they fell upwards. They didn't get fired. They just slithered into the Democratic Party into President Obama's administration, into the Democratic National Committee, into Clinton's future White House, advising her. She was the deciding factor in Libya. Libya, there are now slave auctions. Half to two-thirds of all the Americans killed and wounded in Iraq and Afghanistan were the victims of IED blasts. Iraq is still unstable. You have, by some estimates, over 500,000 to 1 million have perished because of the sectarian violence and because of our involvement and because of the Pandora's box of issues that resulted from removing Saddam Hussein. Taliban is still active and very powerful in Afghanistan. Libya is a failed state now. Syria is a failed state now. Yemen has already, there's horrific genocide from that war. The world as a whole is less safe after 8 years of Obama because of 8 years of Bush. The result is Trump, because Trump is more of an isolationist. That's what these, like, liberals, quote-unquote liberals, don't get. When you pontificate about white supremacy or white nationalism, and I do believe that the phrase, I understand, I think that there is white supremacy that exists in the United States because of the history from 1619 until 1865 of slavery, and then from everything that took place afterwards. Jim Crow, redlining, all these things. But what happens when you implement that type of mentality through foreign policy? You have millions and millions of people throughout the world, refugees, because we helped start the refugee crisis. Give me your thoughts below. I can go on forever. The main issue is that liberals are now trying to rehabilitate George W. Bush because he was an establishment candidate or president. And his foreign policy leaders or thinkers are now have already influenced the Democratic Party. There is no anti-war movement on the left. There's actually a much bigger anti-war movement on the right. On the left, they'll focus on Israel because it's cool, but they don't ever talk about Hamas. They'll talk about, oh, well, I don't like George W. Bush's foreign policy, and I don't like perpetual wars, but if you write a tweet that they find offensive, they'll focus their entire life on trying to destroy you on Twitter and just being okay with Chelsea Clinton retweeting Bill Kristol because Chelsea Clinton agrees with his foreign policy. Not a matter of retweeting. The whole discussion I had with other people, well, it's a whole can of worms. Not a matter of retweeting. It's a matter of if you agree with the most egregious policies on the right, or among conservatives, neoconservatives in this case. The reason Trump will go 8 years is because Democrats have zero anti-war movement. And they believe that because you tried and failed in terms of regime change, that's good enough. They believe that weapons deals are okay through the Clinton Foundation, but like Michael Moore, guns are bad. Michael Moore has never said anything about Clinton's weapons deals. It wasn't a deciding factor for him whether or not to vote, but he'll go ahead and pontificate. Any liberal, quote-unquote liberal, who says that George W. Bush, with everything that he did, and Cheney and Rumsfeld, everything they did to destroy the Middle East, to start the ball rolling on untold carnage, madness, chaos, mayhem. Anybody on the left who says, well, you know, he ain't that bad. Gee, I wish we had him back because Trump is just crazy. They're completely brainwashed. In terms of the tally of destruction, there's no comparison. There's just no comparison. An immigrant ban is not one billionth as bad as destroying Iraq and Afghanistan and paving the way for a Middle East engulfed in flames. That's just, you have to be either brainwashed or ignorant if you are comparing Bush to Trump and saying Bush is better. Bush destroyed the Middle East. Trump imposed an immigrant ban, travel ban. Very different. Give me your and then, you know, the wall, and I mean, everything he does is magnified to the point of absurdity. Magnified to the point of absurdity. If Obama or Trump or Bush, especially Bush, were put under that microscope, you wouldn't have a President Trump, because people would then look in the mirror and say, okay, we need a better president, or we need to not engage in these failed wars. We need to have some kind of anti-war movement on the left. That would have given Bernie Sanders the momentum and ensured that he wasn't cheated. So not only do you have neoconservative foreign policy, you have Bernie being cheated. It's like progressives or liberals. It's this constant cycle of losing, cheating, and pushing for war. And then complaining about not having single payer. And that is so lucrative for so many people. I've mentioned some of them in the past. Give me your thoughts below. Buy my 2 books, But Her Top Secret Emails, But Her Deleted Emails. And if you buy them, think of it this way. It's one small but entertaining way to fight back politically from all this groupthink. Subscribe. Thank you so much.